I think the intro is actually pretty good, right? Yeah, I did do that on purpose, John. This is me coming back from that actual screen, and now we are officially on Facebook. I'm hoping Alex is confirming. All good on your side, right? Um, Everybody, welcome to Red Cup Live. If you're going to be watching this live with us today, we have brought, let me see if my side hands are good. All right, this is where John's located. Side hand to John. We have brought on the man, the myth, the legend, aka the boogeyman today to the show, the appraiser. All right, and we're all gonna hang out, and I want you guys to have a ton of questions for him. I'm gonna drag him out and take as much of his time as I can because I think he has so much knowledge and value to give back to you guys. But to start things off, thank you so much for joining the show. If you are to see this in the future, right? Because we know that Facebook and this will also be posted on Instagram. Still feel free to send in the questions. I think the biggest point that we'll probably get across is that John and I wake up the same way every day with two eyes. Blessed to have them. And we kind of just put our pants on and we go do what we do as professionals. So to start things off, John, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Pleasure to
Um,
be here.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, 30 plus years in individual, professional, and all these things that are on in your history. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, 30 something years sounds a little more than really began in real estate just as everybody else does. My wife and I buying our first home. And that rolled over into another house and carrying equity over from one to another. And that's how I began to learn a little bit about real estate. I didn't get into the professional aspect of real estate until 2006 when I began as a professional appraiser. So I've been doing that since 2006. Uh, totally different outlook on real estate from an appraisal side than an investor side, and even as a realtor side. You know, realtors, I discuss this with realtors a lot. Realtors are looking for how much they can get for a property. And that's their job. Get the most that you can get for your client, do the best job you can for them. But we are not looking to necessarily get the highest valued appraisal we can get. We're looking to get the most accurate appraisal we can get based on the home and the comparables that have sold. So it's a different game. I know a lot of people don't like us. A lot of people get upset because a deal might fall through, but it is what it is. It's like you were saying earlier. It's a job. We do our job.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you 100%, and just so that I can vocalize it, because obviously, all you guys know, your favorite lender, Freddie Baez. Our team, we help family get into homes with the financing side of things, but there is so much value when it comes to an economy of keeping the appraiser, or at least having the appraiser keep us true to what the idea of an exchange of an asset for its actual value is. Um, Without going too deep or knocking any part of our industry, there we all are humans, and the greed element exists in a percentage of us that if we let them take the wheel, we would see, man, you entered in '06 into the appraiser side. So you probably were exposed, without throwing out any dirty laundry on anybody, but I think even myself in that time, I saw that there was just a little bit too much greed in the industry, and it's the idea of everyone being in bed together. Um, And hey, people got homes. I got it, right? But then an economy that is founded on that the idea of land and property then crashed because there was just so much artificial value that was in there. I can only imagine how difficult it was for someone that is a person of principle. So look at everything go up $90,000 in I'm making up statistics here. I don't know, but 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you feel in that space and during that time?
Oh, well, I like to perform honest and accurate appraisals. Always have done that. I'm basically a world Wachovia trained appraiser, which if you know the world, they wanted accurate appraisals. They don't want, hey, this is the number I want. No, it's what it is what it is. That's where I learned. So when everything started, let's say, slipping a little bit, I lost all my clients because I couldn't make values. I couldn't invent stuff like other
Yeah,
appraisers were doing.
yeah.
So I went losing clients one after another after another. Hey, if you can't make this happen, we're not going to come to you anymore. And that's what happened, one after another after another. So, but
Man, tough time. You want to talk
it
about
was
getting
a tough
tested?
time. It was a tough time, and I always do the best I can. We're going to get the best value we can put on paper with the supporting data that we can provide in that report. But I'm never going to make something up. I'm never going to lie. I'm never going to say that
Yeah.
there isn't an apartment in the back when there's an apartment in the back. We have to disclose what's really there, and we have to be honest with what we're doing.
100%. I mean, and this is me just adding a little bit to it, and I'm now speaking just out of thought. And it's I think obviously the biggest gap in the way that value is interpreted, not that it's its exact definition, is there's this great line in people mixing value being subjective or objective. And from your position, it's values objective, which is data driven, black and white. This is what I'm putting in. And then when we look at, with all due respect to all my consumers out there that trust our team, that emotional side then comes and influences, and then now it becomes a subjective value in where what you can interpret. And again, market is driven with data, and then there's the elements that create data. The sales create data. Um, I I mean, we can talk about the price of lumber in the last year, but that's a supply and demand issue. It isn't so much about an emotional decision, right?
Well,
So
real estate should be supply and demand as well. But over the last year and a half, kind of those economic principles have gone out the window.
yeah.
When
This
you think about it, you have people out of work, businesses closing, all these mandates going on,
yeah,
unemployment going, but the housing market is still climbing and climbing and climbing.
yeah,
That doesn't make sense. But if the sales are there, it's not my job to say the market is wrong. Hey, if the market sales are there and the
right.
market sales are going up every month, I'm showing them going up every month, and that's what it is.
Yeah. So that data got created. So this is probably some of the questions that they didn't want me to ask because sales are sales. But how superficial do you feel that we are right now? If we are any, right? I'm not going to put that out there. But when it comes to values, we've in the industry we've been talking about a bull run, right? We've been now 13 years in the bull. It's whether that correlates directly to the hyper local market. I think we can say that there's a difference in between the Miami market and then somewhere in the middle of Midwest, or how they would respond in the next 2 years if we continue on a bull run. But there's been a lot of talk for some time now, and within the space of saying, hey, there a correction has to come. We can't just continue keep on we keep on just inflating. Do you have a position on thinking on of how superficial at this point we may be?
Well,
um
historically speaking, there's always been corrections after some amount of bull run. Some were shorter than others, but usually at least every 10 years or so. We're well past that right now. Yeah, I wish I could foresee and foretell the future. I'd be
Of
in a
course.
better position. Probably wouldn't be appraising anymore. I'd be
This is true. This is
getting
true.
some drinks, you know. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, right now you have the government is buying billions of dollars worth of mortgage-backed securities every month. So, is that keeping the market afloat? Do they stop that and all of a sudden it pops a bubble, or no? Maybe that's really nothing. Everybody is still willing to pay more for houses, and it's going to keep going. Who knows? That's the one thing. Difference between realtors and appraisers. Realtors are looking at the future, and appraisers are looking at the past. We base
Data.
our number on what has happened, and realtors are basing their numbers on what they propose will happen
Yeah, yeah.
because the house is going to sell in the future, not in the past, right? You're going to buy a house in the future, not in the past. So everything for a realtor is happening in the future. Everything that we can do as appraisers comes from the past.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I like that. And I think the big thing there is the idea of opportunity in within it. Obviously, we understand there's a side of sales and there's a side of data. Um, but I think the opportunity of what is the actual return, the possible return. For some people, the return can be peace, safety, or whatever they want to interpret in within their purchase. And then, as we've seen, the more and more that numbers become involved in the market, uh, different way that it's interpreted. So I'm with you on that 100%. Now, like I obviously, guys, before we start the show, me and John get to hang out for a couple of minutes. I don't tell him every question, but I have to kind of tee some things up to let him know, hey, man, this is the question that I got told, or I got asked to ask him the most. And we had actually touched the topic even before I told him this was the question. So this is actually something pretty common. So for all my realtor friends out there, one thing, or at least the question that came up was, do the comps that I give him on the day of the appraisal, do they have anything, any kind of value? Should I continue doing that? Um, does it influence in any way? Not in a manipulating way, but is the data of some value to him? So, John, if you have an appraisal coming up Wednesday, and the agent comes up and says, "Hey, John, I'm Mr. Realtor, and I wanted to just provide you with some information that may make your job easier with absolutely zero intention of influencing the value that you're going to go ahead and put on a piece of paper." Disclosures, wink, wink, all the people out there. What does that mean to you?
I've always said I welcome any kind of information a realtor can give me. Anything they want to talk about, I'm willing to talk about. I can't talk about value of the property we're appraising. I can talk about appraisal tactics and appraisal process and appraisal guidelines. I can talk about the comps you want to show me. We're always welcome. I always welcome your insight because usually we had spoken about this. Usually, if it's a good comparable, I have it on my list already. But sometimes there is one that I didn't see or overlooked or you found somehow that I didn't, and that might be helpful. A lot of times there's comparables that are just they're not comparable or they're not in the market. They're just chosen to, hey, look how high this sale is. Look how high this sale is. But you have to remember we have to compare apples to apples. You don't go to buy like a Chevy and somebody says, well, look how much this guy paid for this Rolls Royce. One has nothing to do with the other. Show me what everybody paid for that same Chevy, and then we can talk about that.
Got it. So just to maybe summarize, you're going to do your job because you're going to do your job. You're a man of principle, and you're going to get a data-driven result. There may be the opportunity in a in a different situation in where maybe there was a variable there that was provided by the realtor, and it's actually data that may be helpful. But the
Sure.
reality is that most of the time you are a professional, and what you live, eat, and breathe is, and when you're on the clock, you're doing your job, right? It's not like you're twiddling your fingers and thinking about the next sale. You are actually trying to come up with a data-driven number that can be put on paper. To I love the fact that you brought up mortgage-backed securities, by the way, because the depth of the conversation just goes.
No,
You're
that's a
you're
that's
you're
rabbit
talking
hole
about
all in itself.
securitizing. You're. I'm gonna take you out to have a drink, and we'll talk about it if you're open to it. But
That's good.
I appreciate, and I cannot speak for, again, we really don't have the opportunity so much in the finance side to have this kind of conversation. And it's not so much because they're not willing or that we're not willing. It's because everyone is extremely busy,
Yeah.
and it ends up being part of a process, and we are helping a lot of people go through a lot of processes at the same exact time. And it comes the day in where John did his job, and I honestly didn't remember that John's the one that helped on that particular home to get the family in. So, but to put that aside, it's a breath of fresh air for me to hear an appraiser bring up the idea of how mortgages are securitized in the market in general, guys, because that's truly how this industry is ran. It's full circle. And John holds he's the guard to make sure that we stay true to it and we don't just run off the cliff like we've done historically. So just a quick synopsis then, John, when it comes to your process of, you obviously go to the home to get your comps, but you did say that you probably already have the comps. So do you start working on the home and the value even before you get there?
Not the value, but the parameters of the home. So before I go, I'm going to pull all the data for the market, and I'm going to pull all the data for what we consider to be comparables for that property. In every market, comparables are different. So, in some markets, bedrooms really make a huge difference. In other markets, it's not so much an extra bedroom, but an extra bath. And whatever market we're in, we're gonna look for the houses that are most similar to the subject, so that I can bracket all those predominant features that the subject's going to have. So the first thing, of course, is location. Everybody knows location, 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 first thing in real estate. So the first thing we're going to do is going to define a market area, and we're not going to leave that market area unless we need to. There's usually no need to leave your market area unless, again, you're looking for those higher sales to throw in there, or there's some market areas that are limited, or things are very unique, and you're not going to find things that are going to bracket or match all these features. So you're going to go outside the market to bring some things in. But usually we're going to find what's most similar, and I'll have some that are in poor condition that are similar homes. I'll have some average condition similar homes, and I'll have, hopefully, we'll have all this, some really well maintained or completely redone or brand new similar homes, so that wherever I find that subject to be, whether it's in real poor condition when I get there, or it's okay, or if it's really impeccable, I already have some comparables that I know it's going to fit into that kind of category. And then hopefully we'll be able to bracket all the other things like its lot size and the home size and the bed and bath count. And once we do all that bracketing or matching, that's where we can find what the market is telling us each of those features are worth. A lot of people, say, "Hey, but we have a pool. That's $10,000." Is it 10,000? Maybe it's a lot more. Maybe it's a lot less. I've been to neighborhoods where they're hardworking people struggling to get by. Pools are a detriment. Nobody wants the pool. They have to spend money on that thing to maintain it,
Liability.
or it turns green.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it all depends on where you are. And some places an extra bathroom means a lot of money, and some it means nothing. Some, the updating means a fortune. Some other places, the houses that aren't updated are selling as much as the ones that are. You can't figure it out, but the market's going to tell you what's happening in that market.
I love that. I love that because I think that's, again, another misconception that's in the industry. I think people within the process believe that you show up as if you just had an appointment 35 minutes ago, and you stopped at one, and then you come to this one, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't like that color very much. Ceilings, 8.5. All right, cool. 240, 244. feeling good today. 244.
I wish it were that easy. I wish it were that easy.
But that's not the case at all. As a matter of fact, you have done a study already, so that when you go to the actual property, you already have at least an understanding of what you're looking at, instead of just gathering that and then just coming up with something.
Correct.
um,
The full market's already been analyzed before I get there. I already know what's happening in that marketplace. I don't know what's happening with that house because I've never seen that one particular house yet.
of course.
A lot of times realtors do a great job and show a lot of awesome pictures, good or bad. A lot of times I know realtors, and not in a malicious way, but kind of try to hide the bad stuff. You know, you don't want to show a picture of the ceiling falling in, but
Yeah,
for appraisers, it would be helpful because if I
of
see
course.
that picture, I know why that house sold for so little. The ceilings were all falling in, you know.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times we can get in touch with the realtors and find out those things. But that's one of the keys that I would really like realtors to know. The more information and the more accurate the information you can put into that listing, the more it helps everybody, especially the appraisers. Because a lot of the information we're getting, we have to be able to verify it. So we can't just pull stuff off of county record because there's no verification source unless it's gone through MLS or through Zillow or something like that, where we can see, you know, what transpired.
Man, that's awesome, guys. For you guys that are watching, I see that there's a good amount of you guys watching. Please drop a comment, like, just show some love. If you have any questions, I only have a couple more minutes here with John. I will be begging him to come back on the show in some time when he has availability. So if you don't have a question now, let's think about them, because this is a great opportunity. So John, I think to kind of wrap things up, at the end of the day, we're all a community, and you play such an intricate part of the whole process, the same as my partners that are out there, when it comes to insurance, when it comes to agents that really have the intention of bringing people um, to having their own home. If there was just three things that you would be able to ask of the agent again, I know you just covered one, or three things of value that you can say, hey, if you guys do this, it's probably going to go ahead and allow us to do the best job possible. Fair win-win for everyone. But you gave me more accurate information. What other two things would you think would be two pieces of advice for those watching?
There's a lot of things, I guess, but I don't know. I think a lot of times the realtors might let their client, a listing agent, I'm talking here, might let their client get a little wrong idea of what their place can be worth. And then it becomes a problem when the appraisals start coming in lower than what you're thinking it's going to be. But really, they're not lower than what the market data is showing. It's just lower than kind of what you talked the property up to.
Good cop,
That's,
bad cop strategy. I see. I see.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So keeping true to what the actual opportunity is for the seller, and then you got another one for me.
Well, I would like realtors to let their clients know we are looking out for their best interest. Maybe not the best interest of the realtor involved. It's
Got it.
unfortunate. It's not our job to look out for the realtor involved. It's really not even our job to look out for the buyer. It's our job to look out for the bank that's making that loan. Usually, because there's different types of appraisals, right? But we're talking about mortgage appraisals here. So in a mortgage appraisal, my client is the bank. The bank doesn't know this market. The bank doesn't know the house. The bank doesn't know what's going on. The bank doesn't really even know the borrower. They know the borrower only by the data that they've been given as well. So they're going to rely on me and the data that I can produce to tell them what that place is worth. And just like the bank would not want to invest more than what something is worth, I'm sure that buyers, if they think logically rather than emotionally, they will realize it's better to know the value of something than to overpay for something. That's my opinion. And if they can let them know that I'm not there to kill a deal, I'm there to ensure that the deal you are making is worth it. That's all.
I love it. And I agree with you. And I will go with because definitely I don't want anyone to take that information and take it as if you're holding a position. Guys, even from my side, and I told him before we got on the show, for me, what's important is that it's black and white through the process. And with all respect to all of my partners, and sometimes we do transactions with people that already have their representation. Um, they do come back and they ask as well, resubmit this and resubmit that. And for me, I will go ahead and do what I have to do. Right. And I'll provide the information from the position of that side and maybe send it over to John. But all that John is saying here is that he's going to interpret data. He has no emotional part of it. He's just doing his job. He's going to give you value. And at the end of it, whether you for 1 second thought that it was worth more or it was worth less, the bank at the end of the day is going to go by that information so that we can continue pushing forward as in the economy. We actually, I was doing the. Did you feel the segue coming, John? Did you feel that I was setting things up, and then I was gonna boom, but my boy Juan, actually, much love to Juan. He just actually dropped a quick question. He said, "Does the type of loan slash percentage of down payment make a difference?" If feel He says, I feel it does. Now, Juan is a professional, we work together. Your answer would be the same as mine. Value is value. It has absolutely nothing to do with the amount of financing that will be provided. The value of the asset is the value of the asset. Now the bank is going to take risk and maybe change terms
Right.
because of the risk that they're taking, because they're putting more money on the table, right? If from an investment if you put out more onto the table, then you're going to say, well, I'm taking more risk and I make a little bit more money. That's kind of the way that the market interprets risk, but the value of what it is the value
Doesn't change.
regardless.
Right.
uh One amazing question, and I love that you gave me the opportunity to do that. But I do want John to come back on. So if I keep him on for too much longer, then the next time I call him, he'll say, "Bro, last time you took my whole evening, and I had a dinner set up with my wife." So I'm going to cut it here and say, John, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I
It
hope
was a
you give
pleasure.
me the opportunity again to kind of hang out. The scotch will be on me because it's supposed to be red cups, but today I had my water and I didn't get the scotch to you in time. But I promise I have you next time.
Sounds
Again,
good.
thank you so much, man. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey, brother, you have a good one. Bye bye.